Hello, and welcome to the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. I'm Amanda Butland, your host and intuitive life coach. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. Today, my special guest is Hope Kimple. Thank you so much, Hope, for joining me today.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I always like to start with a little icebreaker question.
Okay.
Can you share with us what hobby or activity brings you the most joy and why?
Oh my gosh. I have a list. Basically, I love gardening, cooking. Um, Somehow animals keep coming into my life. So taking care of animals. Yeah, dancing, singing. Yeah, candle making.
Wow,
I
what a
love
list.
yeah, I really enjoy life and the fun stuff that it has to offer. So
Mm, I love that. I love that perspective. Yes, there are so many things in life that can bring us joy. And I love that, you have that awareness because a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people, they get stuck in the busyness of the day and they don't take any moments for joy for themselves. So I love that you have so much joy and so many joyful activities that you can do each day. So let's talk a little bit about coaching because that's what we're here for.
ah,
Life coaching. And talk to me a little bit about sort of your experience with life coaching, maybe whether you've experienced it yourself, or I know you're also a life coach, sort of maybe how you got to that journey. So maybe a little bit about yourself and coaching.
yeah. I actually was introduced to intuitive life coaching about 10 years ago. I had just was in the very beginning of launching a business with my business partner, who had been diagnosed with a brain tumor, and through complications of the procedures of her surgeries, and she ended up passing away. And
Oh,
so it really kind of it shook me in a way that left me like, oh my God, whoa. um, and I guess it was sort of the first realization that there might have been a little bit of codependency there on my part, because it was like, oh, well, I can do this business if somebody else is there doing it with me, right? And my mentor, I'm a massage therapist. My business partner is a massage therapist. Our mentor introduced me to Katya. Thinking that it would be a good place for me to kind of start because I was feeling really lost and at this pivotal point of like, okay, built this dream and now it's gone. And plus I was grieving, my somebody really close to me. And then at the same time, I was also getting like my intuitive abilities were just sort of screaming at me and um, just making it really clear, like when I would be working on clients, I was getting very powerful, strong messages and visions. And I just didn't know what was happening or how to process any of that. I was introduced to Katya. And so I experienced life coaching as a client. And it was so transformative in the best way. Um, it gave me the freedom to sort of shake loose of any limiting beliefs or burdens that I may have put on myself subconsciously without knowing, to do things with less fear and achieve dreams that I had once depended on having somebody else there, for validation to do it. But, it gave me like, uh, it showed me the confidence I really had within to sort of move forward and grow. And my business has just been so much better with that insight, being able to self-reflect and not take things personally, look at the bigger picture, always do my best, just just trying to keep a natural balance of, my mind, body, and spirit. And so now it's, my life purpose is to share that with others.
Thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. And so sorry to hear about your business partner. That sounds like it was really, really tough. It sounded like you were very close, but it sounds like through life coaching, you were able to sort of, help go through the grieving process and then out on the other side, just gain your own personal confidence, being able to run your business on your own, without your partner. Um, yeah, that is an amazing story. I'm curious about what you had mentioned around the intuitive piece and how you're in that sort of like that almost came around the same period of time. Um, because I think a lot of like, as an intuitive life coach, right, there is that intuitive piece of it. And I'm always curious about, what sparks the intuitive part when you think about becoming a life coach, but an intuitive life coach.
Mhm.
Could you talk maybe a little bit more about sort of that blossoming of intuition that occurred sort of around that same time and how that came about?
Yeah. So I actually was born with um, visions and gifts. I don't know another term for it, but definitely visions, seeing, I guess, what you or people would call a spirit guide, very sensitive to energies. Um, One of the gifts that really, and I learned to suppress that at a really young age because it scared a lot of people. And so I learned to just like keep that part quiet. But at this point in my life, it was like it couldn't be suppressed anymore. It was like a closet door that's just like, in the cartoons, it's like clothes are trying to burst out of it or something's trying to burst out. That's just what it looked like. That's what it felt like. Um, and it was just like seeping out, and I just didn't know, like, am I crazy? Like, is this, like, what exactly is happening? And it was my intuitive life coach who was like, well, you are psychic, you have mediumship, you are, you're told you have gifts. Like, she told me that you come from a line, that this is in your heritage, this is ancestral, this isn't, like, you were meant to do this. She's like, she couldn't think of she didn't know the right word, so she said a witch. But in my culture, we call them medicine people, like medicine man or medicine woman, a shaman, so to speak, right? And so it was like, as soon as she said that to me, it was like a light switch had been turned on, and it was like, oh my goodness, yeah, no, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It was hard to accept, in the very beginning. It's, me accepting that is new as of within the last few years, that I am psychic, that, I have these telepathic abilities, and I get visions and dreams of things that are coming, and learning how to share that message has been a big part of also like the life coach training, right? Having the confidence or audacity to say what needs to be said, although it may be uncomfortable. So I just felt like it was such a crossroads, such a pivotal time in my life. Like, everything was coming together, and just like reading, I'm like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I think it took Brittany's passing for me to really look at that, or turn my focus in that direction, because after her passing, there were a lot of um, supernatural signs all around me of her communicating to me, just like this is the way it was. I mean, even her passing, when I was there at her bedside, I was seeing things that it's hard to describe. And a lot of people will probably think I'm crazy if I explained what I saw, happening around her. But the fact that my mentor saw something similar, is just the validation. Like, okay, so there was something spiritual, there was something happening here in this moment at this time. So, so I have a lot of gratitude for that, because she taught me how to let go. She taught me how to surrender. She taught me, just in that moment, whether she realizes it or not, like I grew so much out of that experience.
Mm,
So it was something I couldn't ignore anymore.
hmm.
And so I had to really start the journey of self-reflection and getting grounded and being my authentic self.
Yeah, I love what you said when you started the story. You had said you had these gifts as a child,
Mhm.
but then you sort of suppressed them for a long time until this sort of event happened, and then you sort of fully embraced it.
Yeah,
And it sounds like a lot of that sort of embracing and allowing that to come through really was released through that life coaching experience.
absolutely.
Um,
I couldn't have
wow.
done it without it, really,
Hmm.
because it was, I was getting messages, but I didn't understand what did it all mean. I didn't know how to process it. I knew that there was work that I needed to do and things that I needed to look at and dissect and let go of, but I just didn't even know where to start or how, or you know where do you even go for something like that. And I was fortunate enough that my mentor pointed me in the right direction, and life coaching was just like, okay, oh yeah, this is why. Okay, now let's do and this. And it was just like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing this my whole life?
I love that. And it's a it's very similar like process for a lot of people. I mean, not necessarily in with the intuitive gifts, but like with a lot of people, they're a certain way when they're a child, and through growing up and trying to fit in and
Yep.
doing all these things, you sort of lose that authentic being that you are. And then, as you get older and you're more mature and you maybe don't care that much about what other people think of you, then you're able to, use the life coaches to sort of like unravel all those things that you've sort of stacked up through that period of time, and then come back right
Yes.
to your
Yes.
authentic self, which I really love that you've, taken that journey and done that, because look at how beautiful you are,
Oh,
and you just like radiate with wonderful light and energy, and I love that.
thank you. Thank you. That means a lot, just because a lot of times I don't feel like radiant light. I feel sort of like, who's that character and Charlie Brown that has like the dust cloud around him all the time? You know what I mean? Where I'm just like trying to keep it together. But again, it's the practices and the exercises and the tools that I learned in intuitive life coaching as a client, just reminding me to sort of reinforce the foundation. I really had to go back to that childhood me, right? Of the authenticity, the things that I like to do as a kid, just to really understand who I am, like peeling back those layers of suppressing, what those things that I was suppressing to fit in. Um, that was hard work, breaking old behavior patterns. It just, sometimes they pop up. Even still, it's a practice every day for sure.
Yeah. And you've got the animals nearby,
I
because you'd
do.
mentioned the animals earlier
Yeah,
that
we
bring you joy.
found her.
I love what you just said around doing the work, and actually, doing the work to peel back those layers and come back to your authentic self, because it is work, right? It's not like you just go to a session and you talk for a little bit and then everything solves itself. It really is, work to get to that place where you are now, right? And
Yes,
it's a continuous journey to be that authentic self, where you feel that sort of that freedom, and that that it's not as heavy when you get to that place, right?
right, right. And the practice becomes easier, and then new behavior patterns emerge out of it. And
Hmm.
right, and then just when you think you're like okay, and you're like, I got this, then a curveball comes, and you're like shook for a second. You're like, where did that come from? Oh wait, hang on. Take a deep breath. Take a step back. Okay, all right. Now let's move forward. So yeah,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
always.
Just having that mindset that that things will come, but you have the skills to solve them. And probably, I'm going to hallucinate that the problems that come as you continue to do the work are higher quality problems. They're not the same old problems that you had way
Right.
back when you first started, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, I don't know. They're bigger. Definitely more adulty. That's for sure. But yeah, I'm in a space right now where, as a life coach now, intuitive life coach now, I'm in a space where when I start to feel, or when I feel the uncomfortable, if I were to get like a list of like, you have an option to do A, B, or C, and the one that makes me go, ugh, right? I lean into that, right? So I'm in a spot where I'm leaning into the discomfort. I'm leaning into those things that trigger me or may offend me, so that I can dig deeper to
Mm-hmm.
understand that, so that I don't allow it to control me and my emotions in that way. Um,
Yeah.
which is, for me, like, if like 10 years ago me, or even 5 years ago me, or even 3 years ago me, like, would never have considered that. Like, like, ew, uncomfortable, don't even want to look at it. No, I'm not even going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. But I think what I love about sort of taking those challenges and getting uncomfortable and doing those things is the level of growth that you get from solving whatever it is that challenge is. That's the scary, uncomfortable one, right? Versus not doing anything.
Absolutely. And it's the most rewarding, because coming out on the other side, it is refreshing. It's, there's nothing else like it. Just like,
Mhm.
oh my God, that's why. Okay. Just grabbing, just getting control is what it feels like, a rebalance, right? Just, yeah, yeah, nothing like it.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more now. Like you mentioned that you are yourself an intuitive life coach as well. And tell me a little bit about what it is that you're doing, using all of your intuitive gifts that you have, which are amazing, in the practice that you're creating as an intuitive life coach.
Yeah. So I started out 15 years ago, a little over 15 years ago, as a massage therapist. And that is really sort of the archway or the door that sort of brought me on this healing path. It's my massage therapy mentor. He's the one who introduced me to my life coach, who is now my mentor in life coaching. And so, um, it's very parallel in the fact that, so as a massage therapist, I specialize in pain management. So clients, people who are coming to get a massage or therapeutic body work from me, are usually referred to me through other friends who, like, they're not coming to me for a relaxing massage. I know that if they're sent to me, that there is something wrong, and they are at their wits end, or just, days away from surgery, or sick of taking pain pills, or whatever it is, that there is something, and they just need help, and they don't know where else to turn. And then I come in, and with my intuitive healing, as a medicine woman, I'm able to find the root of the like dysfunction of the physical pain. Now, throughout my 15-year practice, I have found that through the release of the dysfunction within the body, there's a moment of, oftentimes, like, emotional release, and mental clarity that come with that, right? People realize, like, oh my gosh, you worked on my hips last time, and I remembered something that happened in college that I hadn't thought about in so long, and it just brought all these emotions up. And so there's a level of sort of the self-reflective deep release that was coming with the body work that I was, the treatments that I was giving. All of my treatments are individual to each person based on what they need. Um, Depending on who comes through, who comes to me, if, sometimes it includes like a psychic reading or an intuitive reading, depending on sort of what it is that client needs in that moment, right? To clear any blockages, to realign. So with the intuitive life coaching, sort of, I'm transitioning from the massage therapy part into more of the intuitive life coaching part, and also kind of combining them together. So because they do work very, very well together. And depending on what it is, if they need an intuitive massage or the intuitive life coaching, or if it's something that looks like it together, really it's all about just getting down to the root of the issue. The dysfunction is what we call it in massage therapy, but the root of the pain, as opposed to just treating the symptoms, which is what a lot of people experience when they go to a doctor or another massage therapist, right? It's like, oh, my neck hurts, and they'll get their neck rubbed, but that's not where the issue is coming from, right? That could be coming from, you know, something that happened when you were 10 years old and you just stored it in that spot. Or, you know, if you are an athlete and it's just overuse, or, you know, if you sit at 90% of the time, where we feel our pain is not where the issue is coming from. And that's my specialty, is I find the root. And I apply that also with the intuitive life coaching, right? We dig deep to go to find what it is, where did it come from, and how you can dissect it, process it, and move around it, move out of it, move forward, grow from
Mm, yeah. I love how you're combining those two things. And I love, getting down to the root of things, because you're right. A lot of people that you go to, whether it's medical or other, massage therapists or therapists, they're looking at the symptoms, what's actually happening, and not necessarily really digging down to the root. So I love that you do that with both of your practices, and now combining them. That's just amazing. It's, it's really holistic now, right? Because it's
it.
not just body like you were doing before primarily, but it's also mind and spirit. And well, it seems like you had spirit too, but really combining all of those pieces.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And it's, I also teach yoga, which is sort of like the maintenance part of it, right? You clear the blockages, and the yoga, the movement, the flow of it, the restorativeness of it just helps keep, the energy flowing, and keeps, the connection to yourself with the breath work and, savasana or meditation. It's just a way to kind of bring it all together and keep it moving, right? Because I tell all my massage clients, as much as I would love to see you every, month or every week or every other week, my goal is to get you in, recalibrate you, right, to where what is comfortable for where you want to be, and then teach you how to maintain that on your own moving forward, so that you know how to do it, right? And then where I'm at for those times when you're like, I just can't get that, I need help, right? You have a support team or a support person here who's got your back, literally, right? And yeah, so that's my intention in my practices, right? Like,
Mm.
I'd love to see you all the time, but you have a life to live, and you want it to be as optimal as possible. And so I'm here to help everybody just sort of rebalance.
Yeah, I love that perspective too on, you're there to help them rebalance, create that balance. And not you're not looking to just have them come back like week after week or whatever it is. It really is trying to really get to the root and cause and create that balance,
Yes.
and get rid of whatever it is that's causing the discomfort or the
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
And a lot of clients, and this is where I saw a lot of parallels with intuitive life coaching, is a lot of clients with the massage therapy part, there was, because I asked specific questions like, well, what are you doing that seems to aggravate it or soothe it? Or how is it feeling when you wake up in the morning, when you go to bed at night? You know, and it forced them to really like, oh, you know what? I don't know. Let me start thinking about that, and then go through their days thinking about, well, how does it feel after sitting for this long? Or how does my shoulder feel after sleeping, when I first wake up? So it's turning that focus within. So then
Mm,
they start to reconnect literally like with themselves, and start learning how their body functions, how it responds to certain, exercises or lack thereof, so to speak. And then with that sort of self-reflection and that self-knowledge of themselves, then they have power over their pain.
Mm, yeah, that's great. I love that. This has been a really great conversation. I love all the things we've talked about so far. I did want to wrap it up though.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share, that you'd like to get off your chest or share with our audience today before we wrap up?
I just would like to share that, we live in really stressful times right now, and not enough of us are taking the time for self care. A lot of us are busy trying to handle our business, take care of business, and it's usually taking care of somebody else or something else. And taking the time to just stop and think and body scan or think about what is it that your body, what you need to keep going. How can you refill yourself to continue on? And, if you need help, if you need support, that's where intuitive life coaching, massage therapists, chiropractors, there's self-care teams out there to help. And I feel like there's a lot more accessibility to them now. So, take that time and self-evaluate and take care of yourself.
I love that message. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think a lot of people, right, they don't prioritize themselves and their self-care. And it does cause, it causes a lot of problems,
Okay.
the crankiness that starts to cause physical issues. And then that affects a lot of the relationships you have with others because you're not being your best self. You're not, you're in that sort of cranky state all the time. So I love that message. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Awesome. Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
I invite you to subscribe to the Embrace Balance Discover Joy podcast and join our community. If you feel inspired by what you hear, please leave a review and share this podcast with others who might benefit. And remember, it's never too late to embrace balance and discover joy in your life. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.